There you go. I'm sorry. Thank you so much, April. Can't hear. I'm sorry. I had to tear down. I'm doing some deep spring cleaning here this morning, and I had to tear down the whole studio. So thank you. That's why I'm just here at the start of the show, making sure that everything is right. Does everything else seem okay? Now that we fixed the sound issue, now we can hear it. That's all very good. Okay. Appreciate you. Hey, everybody. My name is Pugs Moran, and this is the High Noon Stream. And what do we do here on the High Noon Stream? Well, we basically do headlines, hot topics, current events, whatever it is that is making the news today. If people are buzzing about it, we talk about it here. Here's how I give it to you. I tell you what the headline is. I tell you what it is that's making news. Then I tell you why it's making news. Then I give you my hot take on it. And then we move on to the next thing that's making news. So this is sort of like a cheat sheet for you. At least I like to think of it that way. It's a cheat sheet for me. I'm just sharing it for you. This is how I make sure that when I go out later today in the world, that when I run into somebody, they don't go, hey, did you hear about it? I can go, yeah, I did. I heard about it because I put all that together because I'm obsessive that way. I'm weird. I have to know things. I have to know everything while simultaneously not knowing anything at all. That's me. I'm complicated. All right, that's what High Noon is. That's what this show is. And it airs every Monday through Friday at noon. We also do a nighttime show. We call that Pugs and Parker. It's myself and James Parker. It's more conversational. Just a couple of dudes, old friends, just chopping it up on a nightly basis. One of the things that we're working on, though, as a side project with our friends there at RadioMisfits.com, which is, in my opinion, America's finest podcast platform, at least as far as encouraging unique and original podcast talent to shine. They really got cool stuff. Check them out, RadioMisfits.com. So we're working on a new project called Who Killed Live 105.3, which is essentially, it's a bit of a provocative title. Yeah, I get it. and we're going to let people vent, and we're going to let people are frustrated. People want to tell stories, and we're going to allow that to happen. But it's not a hatchet piece. It's really not. I loved Live 105.3. So did you guys. It's not a hatchet piece. It's just kind of a look back at it and wondering, did it really have to go away? Because that's the question. So in terms of who killed, what it means is, really, why did that station have to go away? Did it have to? Nobody killed it. It was a radio station, not an organic person. So we've been using the 9 p.m. stream, the Pugs and Parker stream, to do some interviews with people. And tonight we got a fun one. Tonight we've got somebody who's been mentioned numerous times already. Tonight we will have Live 105.3 super producer and member of the Jagger Mafia, Jimmy Ryan. And boy, oh boy, Jimmy, I bet he's seen some things. Oh, Pretty Eyes. That's what I used to call him. Pretty Eyes, Jimmy Ryan. Jimmy Ryan will join us tonight. He'll be telling his Live 105.3 stories. And he's got to have stories because he approached us. He was like, hey, I got some things I want to say. I'm like, well, we've got a place for you to say it. So there you have it. That's tonight, coming up at 9 o'clock with Pugs and Parker. All right, let's get into today's show. So today is, the High Noon Show is a celebration of this day, whatever today is, right? Like, today is the 16th day of March. Today's the 6th. So we are focusing on the 16th day of March. Year of our Lord 2023. I've got to say that. March 16th is the 75th day of the year. There are 290 days remaining until the end of the year. Okay, so we know the basics about March 16th. So now what we want to do is, has anything big ever happened on March 16th before? And this is where we go into the history of March 16th. We just touched on some of the things, some of the things that have shaped previously on March 16th. We go through some of those, and then we move on to birthdays. We talk about some of the people who were born on March 16th, and you know what this day, their contributions, or what kind of bullshit they get up to while they were here. We talk about that, and then of course we mourn some of the people who we've lost on this day. And then after we've gone through the history, the births and the deaths, I feel like we should be well-rounded enough in an understanding of what March 16th is, to then be able to move into the events of the day. So without further ado, let's do that. Okay, High Noon. It is the 16th day of March, year of our Lord, as I've already said, 2023, 75 days until the end of the year, 290 remain until the end of this year. Wait, no, I'm sorry. 75 days into the year, 290 days remaining. Sorry about that. Okay. On this day, March the 16th of 1620, going way back, Samoset, a Mohegan, visits the settlers of Plymouth Colony and greets them with, "Welcome, Englishmen. My name is Samoset." And then they probably killed him. Isn't that nice? I mean, I have no idea, because really, we are beholden to the gods of history. I have no idea that when the Mohegan Samoset encountered the Plymouth Colony, that he greeted them with, "Welcome, Englishmen." I have no idea. Maybe. That seems nice. That seems like they're painting him as, greeting the new arrivals as a nice guy, which is nice. But I don't know, man. I don't know. Whatever. They seem to have gotten along for a little bit, right? Isn't that where Thanksgiving came from? On this day in 1802, the Army Corps of Engineers is established to found and operate the United States Military Academy at West Point. So it was on this day. Now West Point had been around before this, but it was on this day that they decided, you know what? Let's make this place official. Let's make this where we train all of our best military, Army anyway. The history of West Point is fascinating. It's really cool. West Point isn't just like the United States Military Academy. West Point, during the Revolution and the War of 1812 and all that stuff, was a major strategic point of advantage for whoever occupied it. West Point was important. West Point it's a hill. It's basically a hill that goes right down to the Hudson River. And if you could occupy the high ground on those hills, you could control the flow of goods and supplies coming up and down the Hudson River from Canada. Where West Point is located is a particularly bendy part of the Hudson River. So strategically, super important. Cool place, too. I always wanted to go and see, because there's a lot of really cool military history about West Point, and how if we didn't control West Point, the Revolutionary War would have been much different. And don't forget about old Benedict Arnold and his role there at West Point. Benedict Arnold was trying to give, that was the big thing that Benedict Arnold he was trying to give West Point to the Brits. He was going undercover. He was going all Benedict Arnold. On this day in 1898 in Melbourne, I guess that's going to be Australia, right? The representatives of 5 colonies adopt a constitution which would become the basis of the Commonwealth of Australia. On this day, Australia became a thing. G'day. 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 I love Australians. Australians are just a bunch of short-fused, happy people. They are happy. They're like the Irish, except they just want to be left alone, whereas the Irish don't really want to be left alone. The Irish want you to come, and the Australians, they want to be left alone. They want to laugh. They want to drink. They don't want the rest of the world to know about their incredibly beautiful women that they keep stashed down there. I love Australians. Australians are great. Never going to go to Australia. Would love to go to Australia. Oh my God, are you kidding me? Would love it. Not going. Too far. I just like go. I'll go. Here's what I'll do. I'll go to Key West and I'll eat it in Outback, and I'll just that'll be the whole. And maybe I'll find some Australian friends and I'll take them with me, so everybody around me is talking Australia, and we'll talk in Australia, and we'll go to Outback in Key West. Is that kind of like what Sydney? I don't know. Miami. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, happy birthday, Australia. You became a thing today. In what year? What year was it? 1898. On this day in 1916, the 7th and 10th United States Cavalry Regiments under John J. Pershing crossed the U.S.-Mexico border to join the hunt for Pancho Villa. Oh, yeah. The shit got serious for old Pancho Villa. They sent old Pershing after him. So Pancho Villa, I like Pancho Villa. Oh, I don't know. Is that bad? Can I not say that? I don't know. I've done my own independent research on Pancho Villa. I think he's kind of a charismatic and interesting dude. Wasn't a bad guy. I mean, yeah, he raided a couple of border towns and, he found himself on the wrong side of the Mexican Revolution. I don't know. Kind of like Pancho Villa. Anyway, they went after him on this day. 1926, the history of rocketry. Robert Goddard launches the first liquid-fueled rocket at an Auburn, Massachusetts facility. I don't know, probably. There's probably something similar to a rocket before this. But the first, Guinness Book officiated rocket. I don't know. They say a rocket was invented today, so there you go. On this day in 1935, Adolf Hitler, so this is going to be interesting, orders Germany to rearm herself in violation of the Treaty of Versailles. Conscription is also reintroduced in the form of the Wehrmacht. So on this day in 1939, so the Versailles Treaty after World War I basically humiliated Germany. It's the whole reason for the rise of the Nazis and the angry Germans and all that, because the Versailles Treaty could have been a little bit, I don't know. I wasn't there. World War I was apparently really bad. But Germany, they lost, right? You lose a war, bad shit happens. But under the terms of the Versailles Treaty, Germany was really not in a good place. Which is a shame and certainly detrimental globally because of what we know Germany to be as far as an industrial nation. Instead of just completely muzzling Germany and keeping them down at knife point, what we should have done is that I agree with the disarming. We should have taken their weapons away and all that kind of stuff. What we should have done with Germany after World War I is what we learned to do with Japan after World War II. We took their guns away, and then we emboldened their economy so that the Japanese economy is a major player on the world stage. You look at Japan, you're like, why is that? It's because we took a different path with them after World War II than we did with Germany after World War I. I guess we learned a lesson. So it was on this day that, stuff started to get serious in Germany because the Versailles Pact is still in play. And Hitler's the new leader, and he's like, yeah, we're taking our guns back. Basically told the whole world, we're taking our guns back. And what did the world do? Nothing. They did nothing. They just went, all right. And then there were some nerds out there going, but the Versailles Treaty. And then, everybody else was like, that's really just a piece of paper. But it's a treaty. It's just a piece of paper. There are no laws. Everything is a construct, people. Everything but love. Let's move on. That was in 1935. Hitler rearmed Germany. On this day in 1939, from Prague Castle, more Hitler. Hitler's very busy on this day. Today, on this day in 1939, from Prague Castle, Hitler proclaims Bohemia and Moravia a German protectorate. I'd love that move. I love that. That was a Hitler move. That's another one. See, it's like Hitler never did anything just like overnight. He wasn't like, he wasn't like when the Colts moved from Baltimore. He never did anything. He always he told the world he was rearming Germany. Hey, I'm rearming Germany, because he knew that people were pussies and they weren't going to do anything. So he just got his guns back and was like, fuck the Versailles Treaty. And then on this is another thing that he would do. Before he would invade countries, before he would take them over, he would just make a global announcement that they were now under his protection. The balls! Like imagine we here in America, we're just sitting here and then all of a sudden Kevin Trudeau, oh my God, he was the thin pens and the mega memory guy. No, Trudeau up there in Canada. We're all just sitting here in America, and Trudeau up in Canada goes, I just want to announce that America is now under my protection. Right? Like, how are you supposed to react to that? You're like, wait, what? What do you mean? You can't just say that. So it was on this day that Hitler from Prague Castle proclaimed that Bohemia and Moravia are now German protectorates. That's a pretty good move. That's kind of like me. That'd be like, take it in like, dude and girl relationships, like country relationships. Okay, so like, that'd be like if I just decided that I was going to proclaim, hey, I want to announce Scarlett Johansson and who's the one that's married to Ashton Kutcher? That one. Scarlett Johansson and Mrs. Ashton Kutcher are now under my protection. They are now mine. They are now a protectorate of Pugs Moran. Okay? Be nice if things worked that way. For Hitler, it did for a while. On this day in 1945, more World War II news. The Battle of Iwo Jima ends, but small pockets of Japanese resistance persist. Iwo Jima. On this day in 1966, the launch of the Gemini 8 with astronauts Neil Armstrong and David Scott. It would perform the very first docking of two spacecrafts in orbit. See? How far down the old Neil Armstrong resume do you think that one is? You know what I mean? Like, because he did a bunch of stuff. We know that, like, first human to set foot on another thing is got to be, like, right there at the top of the old Neil Armstrong resume, you would think. I don't know. Being the pilot of the first docking in space, that's on there. It's on there. I just don't know. On this day, let's see, 1968, Vietnam War, the My Lai massacre occurs. Between 347 and 500 Vietnamese villagers are killed by American troops. Villagers. This is one of them situations when you learn about the My Lai massacre, now I can't say it at all. The My Lai massacre. When you learn about this one, this is one of them things that makes it difficult for you to view the world through good guys and bad guys lens, because this was some ugly. This was some ugly, but don't worry, your kids will never be taught about the My Lai massacre in school. I'll have to find out the way I did, on the streets. In 1984, on this day, William Buckley. Oh, this one. Oh, I remember that. Oh, okay. In 1984, it was on this day, March 16th, William Buckley, the CIA station chief in Lebanon, is kidnapped by Hezbollah. So, this was in 1984. William Buckley was the head. He was like, the Middle East desk, very important in the CIA. He was station chief in Lebanon, and in 1984, that was probably the most crucial CIA post in the world. And he was the boss of the entire operation there, and they just kidnapped him. And he died. He died in the CIA chief in Lebanon was kidnapped in broad daylight by Hezbollah, and he died in their care, and we did nothing. Can you imagine if, I guess when was 84? So it was Reagan. All right, but imagine if there was a Tucker Carlson in 1984 when, let's just say it was a Democratic president, and the CIA chief in Lebanon, Beirut, is kidnapped in broad daylight by Hezbollah and then dies in their custody, and we do nothing. Imagine the echo chamber. Imagine how much bigger this story would have been today. But, we did nothing. Actually, we did do stuff. We decided to use it as an opportunity to deal with the Iranians, and then Oliver North got involved, and then Iran-Contra. Oh, it was a mess. But it's fun history. It's interesting American history. But yeah, man, Bill Buckley, like the top CIA spook in the Middle East, a general for crying out loud, just gets kidnapped, and like we do nothing about it. We're just like, okay. We don't want to anger him. I mean, it was only the CIA station chief. It's crazy. Bill Buckley, on this day in 1984, kidnapped. Right there, broad daylight, Lebanon. On this day in 1985, the Associated Press newsman Terry Anderson is taken hostage in Beirut. He is not released until December of 91, 6 years later. This was back prime 84, 85, 83, 86. This is prime kidnapping era for people over there in the Middle East. We don't have the kidnappings, or at least maybe we're just tired of the kidnapping news, so kidnapping doesn't make the news anymore. unless it's like someone special. I don't know. On this day in 1988, the Iran-Contra affair, Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North and Vice Admiral John Poindexter are indicted on charges of conspiracy to defraud the United States. Yeah, that's what they were doing. They weren't just working a plan that was approved by everybody above them, but, good soldiers fall on their swords. And that's exactly what North and Poindexter did. I mean, look, I believe that it was Oliver North's scheme. I don't believe that Oliver North, a career military man, just went rogue and did this on his own for the glory of the U.S. and to fund some secret war that he privately believed in that was against administration policy. No, I don't believe that. I believe that official administration policy said one thing and that the officials in the administration wanted to do another thing, so they came up with a scheme. And Oliver North, who was, great at this stuff, he came up with it. He cleared it with Poindexter, his boss, who then cleared it with the White House. Of course they did. But good soldiers fall on their swords. And that's what happened on this day. Oliver North and Admiral John Poindexter took their indictments like men on charges of conspiracy to defraud the United States. Like men. I say that tongue-in-cheek. Like men. This is not the battlefield. This is bullshit politics. They fell on their swords for bullshit politics, not for the glory or survival or betterment of their men in the field of battle. They did it for politics, which, okay, but then they were applauded by the political operatives who benefited from their actions as heroes. As a hero, as a good soldier. Okay, it's not the same thing. On this day in 1995, Mississippi formally ratified the 13th Amendment to the United States Constitution, becoming the last state to approve the abolition of slavery. 95. Let that rattle around in your head. Hip-hop was already a thing. 95. Mississippi went, all right, let's outlaw slavery. On this day in 2020, the Dow Jones Industrial Average falls by 2,000. Big bad day. I don't remember this. They say Black Monday was like the worst day. It was an even greater crash than Black Monday of 1929. It followed the U.S. Federal Reserve announcing that it will cut its target interest rates to zero. I don't know what the fuck these numbers. You don't either. Who cares? Do you remember this? Do you remember a big Dow crash? This is how little it affects me. I have no stocks anymore. It's like it just doesn't affect me. It's 2020, apparently a big major. 2021 on this day. 2 years ago. 2 years ago on this night, I remember watching this. Holy balls, man. The fuck? This is sick. The Atlanta spa shootings. Do you remember the Atlanta spa shootings? 8 people are killed and 1 injured in a trio of shootings at spas in and near Atlanta, Georgia. A suspect is arrested the same day. You remember this guy? This was like some horn dog pervert who had a sex addiction. He was masturbating 10 times a day. I don't even know how the human body can withstand that level of punishment. And he was frequenting, all of these massage parlors all the time, these Jack Shacks. And I don't know, he suddenly found Jesus. And Jesus told him to kill a bunch of Jack Shack employees. Oh, this dude, man. What a mess this whole thing was. These were all places that he frequented. And he went in and he executed the women, That was on this day in 2021. Man, Jesus don't care if you go to a Jack Shack. Jesus just wants you to tip her well. Right? That's my Jesus. Thank you. Good night. That's my Christian. Let's do some birthdays. Born on this day in 1751, let's celebrate the life of one James Madison. Who was James Madison? Who? Come on. What are you talking about? He's a president of the United States, James Madison. Did you have to think about it? Did you go, James Madison? That sounds like, because he's got a very founding father name, Madison. But there's been a lot of Madisons. Oscar Madison, for crying out loud, the Odd Couple. American academic and politician, 4th president of the United States. What did Madison do? Okay, so Madison was very important in the Constitution. Madison, big baller in the Constitution. What else am I asking to do? I don't know. Look it up for yourself. Born on this day in 1906, Henny Youngman, English-American violinist and comedian. Henny Youngman was the guy. It's weird. I mean, this is what I mean when I always say, you guys, when you look at people who got famous back then, the competition was not that great. I mean, people were getting famous who today wouldn't even have 100 hits on YouTube. They really wouldn't. It was just the people who went for it. Anyway, Henny Youngman's one of those dudes. He was a comedian and he had no charisma and he had a violin. And he would go, here's a joke, here's a punchline. And then he'd play the violin. And he had a catchphrase. And he had a catchphrase that he would apply to things that the catchphrase didn't really seem to make sense with. Like he'd be like, and then I lost my job. Take my wife, please. What? Henny Youngman? I don't get him. He was born on this day in 1906. Born on this day in 1911. All right, here's a dick. Here's a human jerk. Here's a bad guy. Joseph Mengele. No, you know what? Joseph Mengele. I'm going to pronounce it the way an American would because he doesn't need the respect of my attempt to pronounce his name appropriately. Joseph Mengele, German physician, captain, mass murderer. Good, yeah, give him that distinction. Piece of shit, Mengele. A doctor, did all those horrible experiments for the Nazis. Ugh. Born on this day in 1926, Jerry Lewis, ladies and gentlemen, American actor and comedian. I like Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis is funny. I like serious Jerry Lewis. I like serious Jerry Lewis smoking a cigarette. You know, I like preachy, condescending. I've seen it all, babe. Jerry Lewis smoking a cigarette. That's the Jerry Lewis that I like. That guy. Jerry Sinatra, really. That's the version of Jerry Lewis that I like. But I'll tell you this. The Bellboy, have you ever seen The Bellboy? He is an amazing physical comedian. He really was funny. When he was, just as a physical comedian, when he was a skinny, hyper-energetic kid, he was pretty damn funny. Got a little full of himself, got a little weird, but whatever. Jerry Lewis, born on this day in 1926, died in 2017. Born on this day in 1941, Chuck Woolery. He's still alive. 1941, he should still be alive. American game show host and television personality. He'll be back in 2 and 2. Remember him? Love Connection, Chuck Woolery. Jerry Jeff Walker, born on this day in 1942. Now, he did die. He died in 2020. He's an American singer, songwriter, Texas legend, country legend, outlaw legend. Jerry Jeff Walker. Born on this day in 1942. Born on this day in 1949. One of America's first favorite Mexicans. Ladies and gentlemen, Eric Estrada. Eric Estrada. He was I can tell you, he was my first favorite Mexican. He was the first Mexican I ever knew. He was my first introduction to the Mexican ethnicity. And I loved Ponch. Ladies and gentlemen, Ponch from Chips. Eric Estrada, born in 1949. You know who was boring? The guy who looked like me, John. Ponch was the exciting one. Ponch had the lifestyle. Ponch had girl. John was boring. John was like a white guy like me, and he was, he's an Okie from somewhere, he's from like the Midwest. John was a bore. Ponch. We're talking Chips. Ponch. Ponch was fun. Ponch is who I wanted to be. Eric Estrada, happy birthday to you. You're my first Mexican. Thank you for introducing me to a wondrous culture. Victor Garber, born on this day in 1949. Victor Garber is a umbilical twin of Eric Estrada. I mentioned Victor Garber. He's a That Guy actor. You know I like the That Guy actors. You can Google him right now and you can pull him up and you'll go, oh, that guy. Victor Garber is interesting to me because my love of comedy, my ground zero of comedy, is probably late 70s, early 80s SCTV, Second City TV. John Candy, Catherine O'Hara, Eugene Levy, all of these people. That's probably my ground zero. That and a radio team called Steve Dahl and Gary Meyer. Those are probably the two most important factors in how I look at funny and what I think is funny. Okay, so I mentioned Victor Garber today, his birthday, because Victor Garber is probably best known to American television viewers from Alias. He was like the boss. Was his name Jack? Wasn't he like the boss? Wasn't he Jennifer Garner's boss on Alias? I don't know. I only watched a couple of episodes or something like that. Anyway, that's what Victor Garber is best known for. But interestingly enough, Victor Garber came this close to being a member of that SCTV class, that original cast, the one with Victor Garber. They're all his best friends. Like, if you read any biographies about John Candy or, something by, Catherine O'Hara or whatever, which I've read a whole bunch of SCTV and watched a whole bunch of SCTV stuff, this dude, Victor Garber, keeps coming up. And I'm like, I know that dude. That dude's not funny. That dude's a dramatic actor. Well, here's how they met. Victor Garber's first role of note came in 1972, Toronto's production of Godspell. All right, so in 1972, a local Toronto production of Godspell. Look at this cast. It featured Garber, Eugene Levy, Andrea Martin, Gilda Radner, Dave Thomas, Paul Schaefer, and Martin Short. Oh my God! 1972! Holy cow. Happy birthday, Victor Garber. Born on this day in 1954, Nancy Wilson. Nancy Wilson of Heart. Nancy and Ann Wilson. Which one is Nancy? Nancy. Oh, no, Nancy's the blonde. Nancy's the one, she was married to Cameron Crowe, right? Nancy does that. Oh, boy. Oh, you know what? Last night on Pugs and Parker, debuted a new segment called Could You Date This? Where we just show, me and Parker, we look at examples of girls doing things captured on viral video. And then we debate whether or not we could date a girl who did that. Last night, it was a girl who was able to chug a beer, a pint, like a mug of beer. She was able to chug a mug of beer in under a second. She just went, and it was gone. It was amazing. So we debated whether or not we could date that girl. And then the second one was a girl on like a crotch rocket motorcycle who was doing handstands. And, she was like just doing crazy stuff on this motorcycle. So we debated whether or not you could date that. Nancy Wilson, man, she's got one that I want to show. Because I'm very conflicted. I think it's the song Crazy on You by Heart. At the very beginning of that song, the song Crazy, Crazy on You. At the very beginning of that song, our birthday girl here, Nancy Wilson, comes out with an acoustic guitar. And she just plays this like classical thing and then riffs into the start of Crazy on You. And every time I see that, I think to myself, could I date that? Like, is that something is that too intimidating? So I think in a future edition of Can I Date That, we may feature that performance by Nancy Wilson. Our birthday girl today. I love Heart. I think Heart is so underrated. Born on this day in 1959, Flava Flav, American rapper and actor, Flava Flav. One of my strangest fly-on-the-wall moments was at the Grammy Awards, one of the mid-2000 Grammy Awards that my partner Kelly and I were able to go and cover for a bunch of years in a row. We were sent out there and we did interviews and hung out backstage, and it was very interesting. One of the more interesting moments, and I wonder if Kelly remembers this. I have a picture of it. There is a picture of it on my Facebook page, and now that I'm thinking about it, I should have had that picture ready. I could never find it now. I'll show it later. No, I won't. Why would I even say that? Why am I making empty promises? I don't know. I've got to stop doing that. There was a conversation that was held right in front of Kelly and me between Flavor Flav and Brigitte Nielsen. You remember Brigitte Nielsen? Brigitte does. She is the Russian girl, a German girl. I don't even know what she is. Swedish, whatever. Indecipherable European accent. hot chick. Apparently, Flavor Flav and Bridget Nielsen did like a reality show together and they had a relationship or something. I don't know, but they hadn't seen each other in years. And they reconnected off camera, off mic, right in front of me and Kelly. And me and Kelly just sat there in our booth with them, sitting in the booth with us. Oh my God, I can't believe it's you. Oh, sit down. And we eavesdropped on a conversation between Flavor Flav and Bridget Nielsen about I guess they were married? I don't know. Something. And it was the first time they'd seen each other in a long time. And we were listening and they didn't seem to care, but they were off mic and it was crazy because I don't know what the hell they were saying. Flavor Flav was like, and she's like, und ja, und sie Gatland. And I'm sitting there, I'm trying to listen, and I'm like, this would be a really fascinating conversation if I could understand anything either of them are saying. Happy birthday, Flavor Flav. Born on this day in 1959. Born on this day in 1967. Lauren Graham, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, Lauren Graham gets a round of applause. Oh, my God. How cute. How cute was Lauren Graham? I mean, come on. Gilmore Mom? I used to love Gilmore Girls just because of Gilmore Mom. And then I actually really got into the show because I don't know, they hooked me and I liked it. Yeah, I'm a Gilmore Girls guy. But understand, if my dude card is on the line here, I only started watching Gilmore Girls because I had this crazy crush on Lauren Graham, who was celebrating her birthday today. You know who Lauren Graham reminds me of? You know, for every Coke, there's a Pepsi. You know what I mean? Lauren Graham is like the Pepsi to Mary, who's the girl from Weeds? You know, the chick from Weeds? Nancy Botwin. How do I know her character's name? You know why? Because there's a lot of actresses with the three names. Mary. Who's the chick from... Oh, Jesus. Seriously, now I got to do this? Because it's going to drive me nuts. I could probably do this quicker than the chat room can. Who played Nancy Botwin in Weeds? Mary Louise Parker. Mary Louise Parker. I was quicker than the chat room.
Mary Louise Parker. Nancy Botwin.
All right, we got you. Anyway, happy birthday to just the adorable Lauren Graham, the Pepsi to Mary Louise Parker's Coke. Born on this day in 1971, Alan Tudyk. Why do I mention him? Because Alan Tudyk is a tremendous That Guy actor, and you should Google him. Born on this day in 1978, Brooke Burns, American fashion model, television personality, and actress. And in my estimation, she's right up there with Kim Kardashian. Okay? All right. So I got a list because I'm a heterosexual man. I have a list in my head of the most beautiful women that I have ever stood face to face with. The most beautiful. And currently, Kim Kardashian comes in at number one. And look, I don't give a crap about what Kim Kardashian. This was 12 years ago. So it was Kim Kardashian, 12 years younger. And we're just talking about the face. We're just talking about the beauty of the face. Looking at the face and going, wow. And you know what? I'm sorry, but even if you hate Kim Kardashian, her face is beautiful. Anyway, Kim Kardashian is at the top. Oddly enough, Carmen Electra is in this mix somewhere. Carmen Electra is ridiculously pretty. But Brooke Burns, man, I don't know, dude. Brooke Burns might be too, because Brooke Burns has a genetic mix or a cultural mix or an ethnic mix, I guess, that I really enjoy. I call it the Olivia Munn formula. Olivia Munn, where you're a little bit Asian. You have maybe a mom who's Asian, but then your dad's an Irish plumber. You know what I mean? There's this mix between Irish, English, Scotch, and Asian. Now, I don't know, and forgive me, and this is not out of disrespect. It's out of personal ignorance and lack of due diligence. I do not know what region of Asia, okay? So, there may be a difference. I don't know. But Brooke Burns, man. Look, she's got the Irish last name, and she's got sort of the slightly Asian, maybe Hawaiian, maybe South Pacific. I don't know what it is. It's a good mix. God, she's beautiful. So Brooke Burns goes up there. Brooke Burns is right up there with Kim Kardashian. I don't know what Kim Kardashian. She's like Turkmeni, Armenian. She's like, there's like a whole lot going on with Kardashian. But beautiful, beautiful. Born on this day in 1994, Joel Embiid. Cameroonian basketball player. He's a good one. If you have an opportunity to acquire a Joel Embiid for your NBA franchise, I suggest you do it. Who else? Let's see. Born on this day in 1999. Joel Embiid was 94. And born on this day in 1999, Vlad Guerrero Jr., Canadian baseball player, plays up there for the Blue Jays. Vlad Guerrero Jr. Look, if you're a kid, if you're a baseball kid, if you love baseball from the 90s and the 80s, then you really have to love the Toronto Blue Jays. That team is stacked with the children of Hall of Famers from the 90s. You got Vlad Guerrero Jr., okay? And we just talked about him. He's celebrating a birthday today. Vlad Guerrero Jr. is playing on the Toronto. And by the way, these are not just guys elevated because of their names. These guys are tearing it up. These guys, Vlad Guerrero Jr. is an MVP candidate. Vlad Guerrero Jr. is a legit top 10 baller in all of Major League Baseball right now. Certainly as a hitter. And as a defensive first baseman, he's got a gold glove. He's only been in the... Anyway, I don't need to... Vlad Guerrero Jr. is a great player. Maybe even better than his dad. And his dad was one of the best players of his time. But man, they got Craig Biggio's kid. They got Dante Bichette's kid. Ooh, happy birthday, Vlad Guerrero Jr. All right, a couple of deaths. Dead on this day in 1899, Joseph. Actually, no, he's an American, so we're going to pronounce it Joseph. There we go. Joseph Medill. Joseph Medill died on this day in 1899. He was an American journalist. He was a politician. He was a mayor of Chicago, but in this day and age, we know him because his namesake, he is the name of America's premier school of journalism. And that is, of course, the Medill School at Northwestern University. Dead on this day, Joseph Medill, now the namesake of the Medill School. 2005, dead on this day, Todd Bell. Oh my God, American football player Todd Bell died on this day in 2005. Oh, Todd Bell. Oh, Todd Bell, man. Todd Bell. You know how people made fun of McLean Stevenson for years for leaving MASH? McLean Stevenson was like, I'm leaving MASH. I don't need you guys. I'm going to go elsewhere. I'm leaving MASH. And then, he his career bottomed out and MASH went on to be like MASH. So Todd Bell kind of has a story like that. Todd Bell was a cornerback for the Chicago Bears in 1984. And the Chicago Bears in 1984 were finally getting good. They'd made it to the championship game. They were getting good. It was 84. Except, nobody talks about the 84 Bears. So 84 going into 85, Todd Bell was the starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears defense. A defense that, interestingly enough, would go on to be rated as the greatest defense of all time. But this is the year that Todd Bell decided to sit out. Todd Bell sat out. Todd Bell, the starting quarterback for the Chicago Bears in 1984, decided to sit out the entire 1985 season to prove a point that they couldn't win without him. Oh, Todd Bell. Oh, of course, the Bears would go on to be one of the most dominant teams, single-season teams in NFL history, win the Super Bowl in convincing fashion, and Todd Bell never played. I think he played again. I think I remember Todd Bell popping up with the Raiders, like in the late 80s. And I'm like, oh, that guy. Todd Bell and Al Harris, two guys who sat out, two starting defensive players for the 84 Bears who sat out the 85 season because they didn't think the team could win without them. Dead on this day in 2016, Frank Sinatra Jr. Never has the junior been more important. We just talked about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Vlad Guerrero. Junior's not really important there because we're talking about two guys who are in their own right great. But in the case of Frank Sinatra Jr., I think the junior's real important because, I kind of feel bad for him too because, you have to live your whole life in the spotlight of, not the spotlight, the shadow. You have to live your life in the shadow of a man who for decades was considered to be the apex of masculinity. His father. So Frank Sinatra Jr. had this funny thing, man. Frank Sinatra Jr. just basically lived his life as his father. Like Frank Sinatra, he had that same energy. Hey, swing, baby, yo. And he would boss people around and all that. And people went along with it. If you ever saw any of the Sopranos episodes that Frank Sinatra Jr. appeared in, they fucking treated him like he was Frank Sinatra. And I always thought that is such a weird dynamic because he's not Frank Sinatra. He doesn't have the power, the influence, the cachet, or whatever of Frank Sinatra. He's just got the name. And yet people, they bow down to, hey, get me a drink, Skippy. And I was like, yes, sir, Mr. Sinatra Jr. You got to throw in the Mr. Sinatra Jr. I don't know. I just always thought it was weird. And it's not like being at a party with a Sinatra impersonator, because an impersonator is doing a gag, everyone's in on it, and you're going with it. So when the impersonator starts bossing you around like Sinatra, you're like, okay, I get this. It's an impersonator. It's a gag. But when the person now bossing you around as Sinatra is just Frank Sinatra Jr., that's got to be weird. Anyway, he died on this day in 2016. I mean, look, I'm sure it was difficult trying to find your own voice, but he's the one that decided to become a crooner in the 1980s. Don't tell me you didn't give up on it all and just decide to milk your daddy's tit from a very early age. Because that style of music, if you wanted to be a musician, if you want to be like, yeah, I've got the Sinatra bug for music, and you wanted to be in music, you'd have been doing like Cream albums. That's your age, Frank Sinatra Jr. You wouldn't be putting on a tuxedo and singing at lounges in Reno, okay? So you were milking off daddy's tit. So just check yourself, Frank Sinatra Jr. Dead on this day in 2019, the father of American surf rock, Dick Dale. You know that stuff, that kind of surf rock. Surf rock was big for about 6 months in 1992. Everybody's like, dude, I'm into surf rock. And then everybody got headaches at the same time. And we went, you know what, maybe surf rock. Same thing happened with ska. We adopted ska for about 6 months. And then we all got headaches and went, oh, God, maybe it's the music. Turned out it was. Let's see here. Let's get into the topics. Do we feel like we have a firm understanding of what today is? Do we feel like we know what previously on March the 16th is all about? Because we're about to move into the events that are going to define this episode of March the 16th. China Rising. I don't know what this is about, but it was trending #1 earlier today. So let's see. Can't be good. Oh yeah, this is the thing. Let's see. Apparently. China's kind of getting together a little gaggle of like, it's almost like Revenge of the Nerds. If you really think about it, like China is like a nerd, and like Putin is like the bad news bears, right? It's like all of these like underdog, these like kind of like, and of course America, we're the popular frat, we're whatever, So China's getting together kind of like their little like Revenge of the Nerds group that they're gonna, I don't know, the big homecoming parade is coming up and they've got something planned. Putin's visiting China, fresh off of Legislative Congress where he centered his vision for governing China. Xi Jinping turned to how he would create a better world order. It would be based on mutual respect, tolerance, and equality. And China would be its natural leader. So he's saying this and he's meeting with Putin. Does Putin see some sort of global strategic advantage in bowing to Ping at this moment? Because I don't believe that Putin believes Russia bows to anybody. But Putin is in a position now with the Ukraine facing off against NATO where he might be willing to humble himself on the world stage. So is that what this is? So you've got Xi Jinping standing next to Vladimir Putin, and Ping is talking about how China will run, naturally, the new order of things. So who else is in this Revenge of the Nerds party that's going on over there in China? Who else? Who else is going to stand up against we're Ted McGinley. You guys remember Ted McGinley? the actor Ted McGinley. He always played like the leader of the bad guy frat. That unfortunately, that's who we are because we're the powerful ones. I know this sounds very insurgent. Like I am somehow making the Chinese and the Russians the guys we root for. No, we're not rooting for the nerds. Come on, this is reality. Movies, you root for the nerds. In reality, we don't root for the nerds. Stop it. So who else is in this nerd party with China? Let's see. China would be its natural leader. All right, so he told this to the heads of political parties from countries including Russia. Oh, so he did. He said this to Russia's face. Russia, South Africa, Nicaragua, and East Timor. All right, that's it. That's who we're going to war with. We're going to war with Russia, China. Let me tell you something about South Africans. I know some South Africans. They can't be trusted. They can't be trusted. So go ahead. You guys pretend like South Africa's going to be there when you need them. South Africa ain't going to be there. South Africa's going to sit down there at the bottom of the world, little dangling testicle off the bottom of Africa there, and they're going to look up and they're going to see how this is all playing out, and then they'll make their decision on what side history will say they were on. And then you're left with Nicaragua and East Timor. Good luck to you, Russia and China. Good luck. I know there's some other people that'll be sprinkled in there like Iran, but don't worry. Israel will take care of Iran. It'll be fine. Saudi Arabia will hold everything else. Now, but Saudi Arabia's on the Russian side. Nah, Saudi Arabia likes capitalism. Saudi Arabia has really benefited from Western American-driven capitalism. If you think for 1 minute that the royal family of Saudi Arabia wants to just switch everything up now and go in a different, you're crazy. Crazy. Although there are some people out there who I heard this conversation, which was really scary, that the royal family of Saudi Arabia, who officially isn't, but unofficially is way the wealthiest family in the world, because they've got a bunch of illegal stuff going on too that they don't count. The Saudi royal, I heard a debate that was being held about the position in a changing global climate of the Saudi royal family. And the position was what I just said. The accepted position was that the Saudi royal family is way too entrenched with the Western world. I mean, they don't have money in Russian banks. They got money in English banks. You know, they got money in American banks. So anyway. But then the other argument was, is there a point where you become so wealthy that you literally can afford to just change up and make new alliances and try and shape a new world? I don't know. That's why China Rising is something people are talking about. Credit Suisse, speaking of one of those fancy European banks, Credit Suisse was on the verge of bankruptcy yesterday, or bankruptcy, that might be the wrong word to use. Credit Suisse was going under because of that very same Saudi royal family. The Saudi royal family announced that they would no longer be pumping good money after bad and supporting and bolstering up Credit Suisse because it's the Saudi royal family's money that is supporting that bank and making that bank as solvent and as powerful as it is on the Western global world stage. Saudi royal family pulled their money yesterday and Credit Suisse started to teeter, and now it's okay because the government of Switzerland, I don't know, what is it? The Swiss Central Bank? The Swiss Central Bank, recognizing the importance of Credit Suisse on the global stage, has decided to step in and will save Credit Suisse. So don't you worry, all of the rich people who keep their money with Credit Suisse are getting bailed out by the Swiss government. However, if you had a checking account at Washington Mutual in 2008, fuck you. No, that's not true. That's not true. As long as you had less than 250, I believe the FDIC came through for you, which I shouldn't be so angry because that 250,000, when Washington Mutual went down, you know what? We don't need to get in it. Anyway, we can talk about that now because Credit Suisse has been bailed out by the Swiss. 50 billion francs, $54 billion to bolster the confidence in the country's second biggest lender and blunt concerns about the international financial system. Okay, so the Swiss people, the Swiss central bank to the rescue with Credit Suisse. We now move on to regional banks. Regional banks are also making big news on this edition of March 16th. It says here the struggles for regional banks. Now, the difference, obviously, you know, you've got these big global players. You've got these big investment banks that are like the cornerstones of, you know, how business runs and how innovation gets done. These are the Credit Suisse. These are the Silicon Valley banks. And then you've got, you know, your normal everyday regional banks, the ones that operate, you know, just in a couple of states or whatever. I'm with a regional bank. I'm with a regional. I'm not with one of the big major ones. I happen to be with a regional bank. And what makes it difficult for me is that I'm not in that region. So it's like I have to do everything via phone and app and whatever. Hey, it works. But regional banks are also trending today because there is a domino effect that is occurring with all this instability and interest rates going. Well, everything is volatile. We'll just suffice it to say that. If you want expert breakdowns, there are other people going around claiming to be experts who could probably tell you more and better with more interesting and fancy words than I could. So it's fucked up is what we're going to say. Regional banks. The struggles for regional bank stocks have continued despite the announcement from U.S. regulators over the weekend of additional support. First Republic had the third highest rate of uninsured deposits among U.S. banks behind Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank, which was closed by regulators over the weekend. This according to a note from Raymond James. First Republic stock was down nearly 75% in March as of Wednesday's close, and the bank's debt has been downgraded by S&P Global Ratings and Fitch Ratings. Okay. If that means anything to you, here's what it means to me. I said this yesterday. You and I, we've been sitting here every day bitching and moaning about the Dollar Tree going from $1 on everything to $1.25 because that's what we feel. Bitching and moaning about the price of eggs. Bitching and moaning about the price of gas. These are the things that affect us directly. And nothing gets done so long as only we, the great unwashed, are being affected. Nothing gets done. They can take it. They're tough. They're hard-scrabble Americans. They've been through everything. But when it starts to affect the rich people, that's when shit starts to get done. So if you want to look at it on the bright side, shit might get better quicker now because rich people are being affected. And so there you go. Welcome. That's my bright side moment. Things financially will either get better or we, the people, will be dining on the blood of rich people for the next 10 years. Because this shit is either going like, you know, post-apocalyptic Mad Max, or it's going to be fine because the rich people are going to get together and go, hey, we got it pretty good. Let's not fuck this up. Let's just go back to the way it was. And then everything will be fine. I don't know. Got to stay optimistic. TikTok is trending. TikTok is trending because everybody wants everybody off TikTok. TikTok, the Chinese own everything. You know what? I don't have TikTok. I have a TikTok account. I don't have the TikTok app. Here's what I think. What are the Chinese going to get from me? Nothing. They're going to get nothing. They're going to get nothing from me. I got nothing? The Chinese are going to steal your bank account. Oh, really? They're going to steal $175? Really? The Chinese are going to steal my bank account. Me? I don't know. No secrets. They can monitor you. What? They don't want to monitor me. I'm a 50-year-old man who in 4 days has basically just rewatched the entirety of the series Justified. What the fuck are the Chinese going to get from it? I don't get it. I understand that it is dangerous in certain people's hands. Like, for instance, the whole TikTok controversy where the government is now getting involved. Can't have TikTok. I completely get the idea that there should be concerns for government workers, people who work for the United States government. If you work for the federal government and the Chinese do have the ability to sort of take random information, you might be somebody they'd be looking at. Not me. They're not looking at me. I got nothing for them. You got nothing for them. But, you know, maybe if you work in a strategic office in the Pentagon and you also make TikTok videos in your apartment at night, you know, I can see why the Chinese might see you as a target and why we, the government, might go, yeah, you probably shouldn't be making TikToks. So anyway, that's kind of the debate. What's going to happen? I mean, it would very... Here's what they're asking. So the United States, as of today, are demanding that the Chinese, which should just... this is like me declaring Scarlett Johansson and Mrs. Ashton Kutcher under my protection. Remember earlier today, I was like, I declare Scarlett Johansson a protectorate of me. I'm protecting her now. The U.S. has... This is like that. The U.S. has demanded that the Chinese owners of TikTok sell their stakes. Like, on what authority? On what authority do you make this demand? None. So, okay. So this whole thing can be avoided if that happens. Maybe the Chinese want to get out. I don't know. The U.S. has told TikTok owners in China to sell their shares or risk a ban of the popular video sharing app. People familiar with the matter said a major escalation in the long-running standoff over privacy concerns around the Chinese control of its data and the algorithm. I don't care. We're done. That's all. We don't need to go into any more of that. If you want to find some information about the TikTok pros and cons and the debate that's raging about it, go ahead. Go ahead. I don't really care. I don't use TikTok. Banning TikTok and banning drag shows simply do not seem to be real important issues that any of us, certainly not people elected to serve in the United States Congress, should be wasting a moment of our valuable time on. But whatever. It's stuff that we can understand. And as long as you can engage the people and keep them ginned up, they understand that. They understand the drag show down there on Main Street. They understand their daughter making them crazy TikToks all night. They understand that. They can get ginned up about that. What they can't get ginned up about is, shady shit that some dude in charge of lending at SVB, some decisions he made 9 months ago. We can't get ginned up about that, although that shit's having a real effect on everything. I don't know how much effect kids doing TikToks is having on the security of the United States. I don't know how much effect drag shows on Main Street are having to the well-being of the United States average citizen. I don't know. NCAA tournament is going on. Oh, God, it started. I don't really, look, I'm a big crazy sports fan. I love the tournament. But I truly, if I do not have a team, that I've been following, look, I'm a Big Ten guy, so I always root for Big Ten in basketball. So I've been loving Purdue all season long, but I don't live in the region that gets all the Purdue games anymore. I used to when I lived in the Chicago area. We got all the Purdue games. I don't live in that region anymore. So I had to watch like maybe 3 Purdue games that were on national TV this year, and they lost every one of them. Purdue lost every game I saw. And yet it's like, Purdue's the number 1 seed. Purdue's the best team in the country. I'm like, every time I watched Purdue this year, they lost. So I don't really have a team. So I won't be getting involved with the NCAA tournament this time until Sweet 16. Let's get through the first couple. Let's get all of the trash teams out of the way. Now, I know that there's going to be some really fun buzzer beaters and early round shockers, and hell, we may even get a 2 over a 15 or whatever. But I don't really care until the Sweet 16. And let's be honest, it's the last weekend. It's the Final Four weekend that, is the one that I really enjoy. Abortion pill is trending because here in Texas, we got a Texas judge who is in a very powerful position right now. He could be setting precedent on a ruling concerning the abortion pill and how the abortion pill, which is a legal thing in this country, how the abortion pill and its use and availability will be affected by laws in places like Texas. New laws concerning abortion, which again is federally legal. The judge is Amarillo, Texas. The judge in the closely watched lawsuit seeking to overturn federal approval of a widely used abortion pill questioned lawyers publicly for the first time on Wednesday. The wide-ranging hearing included discussions about whether the anti-abortion plaintiffs had the legal standing to sue the government and what types of ruling he had the power to issue. So the judge is trying to get it straight exactly what he has the power to do, and what's being revealed throughout this case is he's got a lot of power here. This particular judge in this particular case with this particular precedent-setting ruling. Woo, boy! The judge, Matthew Kazmarek of the Northern District of Texas, said that he would decide as soon as possible whether to issue a preliminary injunction that could at least temporarily take the pills mifepristone, that's the abortion pill, off the market. He seemed acutely aware of the unprecedented nature of the case, establishing through his questions that a court had never ordered the federal government to withdraw the approval of a drug that had been legally available for years. This is a big deal. This is a big deal. I don't know, chat room, did he come down with a ruling yet? Because this could happen at any moment, and I've been busy doing other things. So let me know if you see something in the chat room. We got an anti-aging deal going on here. Some dude says that he's figured out exactly how to shave 10 years off your life. Harvard longevity researcher. He's a 53-year-old man. He says he looks 43. I don't know. I'll show you the picture. You can decide for yourself. But let me tell you what he's all about. Dr. David Sinclair is a molecular biologist. He's at Harvard. Hold on. Where is it? Nope, that's not it. I don't know why that happened. I just lost the damn page. Here we go. Dr. David Sinclair is a molecular biologist at Harvard. He has some suggested tips on how he has been able to stop the aging process. He's 53. He says he's 43. Let's look at him first. Let's take a look at him. Let's see if he looks 43 or 53 or whatever he is. Where's my guy? There he is, my anti-aging guy. Okay. All right, so here he is. All right, I'll show you some side-by-sides. And I'm going to give you his tips. He says he's got some tips on how to stay young looking. Booyah. There you go. All right, so here we go. So on the left is him in his late 40s. And then on the right is him. He's 53. I mean, he looks good, right? I mean, certainly if you told me the guy on the right was 53 years old, I'd go, hell no. That's not, I'm 53 years old. That dude ain't 53 years old. That dude right there, he looks to be 43. I would say if the guy on the right is him at 40 or at 53 years old, then yeah, maybe he does know a little something about how to keep yourself looking younger. And although here's the tip here. His whole deal isn't about looking younger. His deal is about treating your cells at a molecular level in the things that your cells need. He's not like about, I do cross training 3 times. That's not what he's about. He doesn't. All right, here. So I'll give you some of his tips. A biohacking Harvard researcher claims that he has de-aged himself by a decade after taking 4 simple daily habits throughout his middle-aged years. David Sinclair, who is a molecular biologist, has now had 53 birthdays, but claims DNA testing suggests that his body is still only 43. Biological age looks at the health of cells rather than how long someone has actually been alive. All right, so we understand that. So you're right. We humans, just for our own ease, we give us a birthday and we count the years, right? But that doesn't really reflect, because some people die at 40, right? Some people have, so that doesn't really mean anything. What your body actually has aged like is probably more important. So that's what this guy studies. This is the molecular age of the body. Like your heart. You might be a 23-year-old, but your heart, you might have the heart of a 60-year-old. That's not a good thing, right? And molecular biology would tell us this. It would say your heart is... So this dude, although he looks young, we're looking at him right there. That's him on the right at 53 years old. He looks young. He is also talking about how, no, this is more about, your actual body, not your physical appearance. But still, he looks young. He was prompted to start a healthy routine back in his late 30s after becoming overweight and drinking too much. Urging others to take action, he said, my calculated biological age has been going down for the past decade, or more, to a point where I'm predicted to live at least a decade longer than I would have if I hadn't done anything. It's never too late, he said. He added, nobody wants to be sick for a decade or have cancer that drags on or be frail. What we're really talking about here is preventing those things or squeezing them into the absolute last bit of life. David Sinclair is well known in the anti-aging space, having written books on the topic and appeared on the podcast circuit for many years. He also runs a company, blah, blah, blah. Here's what he does. All right, so here are some of his tips. We don't care about the company he runs. What he does do is he runs 3 times a week. 3 times a week. I can get behind that. I can do that. A cornerstone of almost all anti-aging plans is exercise. It helps to maintain muscles, boost heart health, avoid obesity, and reduce inflammation in the body, which can all drive age-related changes to the cells. Dr. Sinclair said that he always aims to undertake aerobic exercises at least 3 times a week, whether that's swimming, cycling, a brisk walk, rowing, or jogging. All right, so he runs. Here's another thing that he does. He eats just a few hours a day, which is also something that I do. But I do it because I'm poor, and I just assumed I have bad nutritional habits. But I eat basically 1 meal a day, and so does this guy. This guy, he says he eats 1 meal a day. He's basically intermittent fasting. So, like, he'll eat at dinner time, and he'll eat a big meal, and then he won't eat anything again until dinner time the next day. That's kind of how I live. That's kind of how I don't eat breakfast. I very rarely eat lunch. People should try intermittent fasting to slow aging, says Dr. Sinclair. Limited calorie intake to just a few hours of a day can boost insulin sensitivity. It protects against diabetes and allows time for cells to flush waste substances out of the body that could cause harmful changes. Remember, this flies in the face of everything we learned about. No, it's better to have 20 small meals a day than just 3 big ones. You know, you've heard that one. No, constantly eat. Just constantly be eating something. Have a salad here, then maybe an apple, and then, come over here and have whatever. No, they're saying no. They're saying no, just eat once a day. Eat once a day, fuel up, and spend the rest of the day that you're alive burning that 1 minute. I don't know how it works. And I'm a fat guy, so nobody should be listening to me on this. He also says drink matcha green tea twice a day. He also says avoid jerks. I don't know what matcha green tea is. That might be a deal breaker for me. It tastes awful. My partner Kelly, every day she used to bring, what was that stuff called? Oh, it was awful. She used to bring us green shots from like Jamba Juice or something. Wheat germ? Was that a thing? Oh, that shit was awful. Anyway, that's what I bet matcha tea is, but it's awful. He also says, don't hang out with jerks. Seriously. He says that's the most important thing. He goes, if there are people in your everyday life who, when they walk up to you, you go, oh God, here he comes. Don't have that person walk up to you in your everyday life. I actually live by that and have been living by that for 15 years. Anybody who causes me any kind of stress, I'm just, nope. I mean, with obvious exceptions. Like my best friends, my son and my mom, all from time to time cause me stress. And I put up with it from them. But for the most part, like, Bob from accounting, no, I'm leaving. You talk to Bob. I don't need to be around his energy. That is probably the best one. So run 3 times a day, eat once, what was that thing? Run 3 times a week, eat once a day, drink green matcha tea, and avoid jerks. There you go. And you can look like this guy. Look at him. That's 53 years old on the right. He's a Harvard doctor. He says that he's figured out how to stop aging. He's crazy. All right, moving on. Chinese billionaire is trending. This was a story that happened yesterday after we signed off the show. Did you hear about this? Now, this occurred at the Sherry Netherland Hotel in New York City in Manhattan, Midtown Manhattan. I don't know if you know what the Sherry Netherland is, but It's like one of the fanciest and nicest hotels in the entire world. Like if they made a list of like, it's probably the best hotel in New York City, the Sherry Netherland. Now people talk about the Plaza, because yeah, that's what rich people in Nebraska think is the best place to go. No, the Sherry, I'll tell you what, you want to know, take no other authority than Tony Soprano. On The Sopranos, whenever Tony was trying to impress a Gumar, when he wanted her to know that he was serious, or when he was trying to make something up to Carmela, he would offer, let's go into the city. We'll stay tonight at the Sherry Netherland. Like it was a really big deal for Tony. Anyway, the Sherry Netherland Hotel made the news yesterday when a major fire broke out in one of its private apartments. These fancy hotels, they all have like private apartments that are absurdly expensive. And they're not like apartments. You think, oh, apartment like my college apartment. No, this is an apartment like a 30,000 square foot, 4-floor apartment. You know, this is not an apartment like your, so it's a very fancy apartment owned by some Chinese billionaire. So here's why this story is interesting to a lot of people. So this Chinese billionaire, what's his name? A fire broke out inside an Upper East Side hotel on Wednesday, and the FBI is now involved in the investigation. The FBI's New York field office is working to determine whether the fire at the Sherry Netherland Hotel in the Upper East Side, I said Midtown, so it's Upper East Side, in the Upper East Side is linked to the Wednesday morning arrest of exiled Chinese businessman Gu Wanghui, multiple law enforcement sources told ABC News. Okay. So I'm just going to tell you what happened. So this Gu Weiwei, he's a Chinese billionaire. He's one of these, we've been watching him. Let's just put it that way. We've been watching him. He's doing some stuff. He's also business partners with Steve Bannon. So, you know, there's that. But they've been watching him. He's been doing some stuff. So they raided his apartment. He's got an apartment at the Sherry Netherlands, like this giant, expensive billionaire apartment. So they raid his apartment. They arrest him, they take him away in cuffs, and while the FBI are taking him away in cuffs, the apartment becomes engulfed in flames, like big, serious flames. Isn't that fun? They're arresting. What was he burning? Was this a coincidence that a fire broke out? They don't have fires at these hotels. These are fancy rich people places. They keep this shit under control. They don't have these things. But you know what else they don't have? They also don't have FBI raids at these places. Very weird is all I'm saying. So that's why Chinese billionaire is aging because he was, whatever. Man, I could totally see him burn everything. You know, I could totally see him do that. And they just throw everything in a bathtub, pour kerosene on it, and just start a fire. I don't know. We don't know. We don't know how the fire started. We don't even know if it's related to the arrest of the guy who lived in the apartment who was being arrested when the fire broke out. We have no idea. Could just be a coincidence. Shacking up, ladies and gentlemen. Shacking up. Did you guys shack up? Are you guys married? Are you married? Are you in a relationship? Did you shack up? Shacking up, of course, traditionally, the brand that we hang on people who are living together but not married, shacking up. Oh, it was not good. It was derisively used. Now it's being embraced. More, you know who likes to shack up? You know who is totally down with the shacking? Gen Z couples. Gen Z couples. More than any other generation in history, they are shacking up. And this is progress. I'm sorry. I just absolutely believe this is progress. I think this is the idea. Okay. So I get it. Like back in the day, your daddy and somebody else's daddy made a deal, and now you, little Jebediah, you gotta marry sweet Mary. And Jebediah and Mary are gonna be married, and they're gonna live together, and they're not even gonna see each other until their wedding day. I mean, I understand how marriages and families and connections and networks and all those things were built over time through marriage. But that doesn't happen anymore. And the average American just marries whoever the fuck they want. And, you know, that's not a thing. So the idea that two people who do not know each other and have never lived with each other are suddenly forced one morning to wake up together and confront the idea that they're going to have to wake up together every single day for the rest of their lives, no matter what. That's absurd. That's absurd. Two people who are dating move in together. See if you guys make good roommates. If you make good roommates, then we'll talk about the next step. Right? I mean, am I crazy? I'm not crazy. Of course you should live together first. It's so, it's as absurd to me as the argument, you shouldn't have sex before marriage. What? What? Well, first of all, let's take a time out here. We are putting way too much import on the role that sex will play in your marriage. If the goal here for your marriage is to have the two of you buried side by side next to one another after your 100th birthdays and you both die simultaneously, if that's the goal of marriage, that you guys are going to stay together forever, then what the hell? I mean, hold on. I'm sorry. I feel like I'm battling hiccups. I know I just talked for a really long time, and I'm going to finish that thought. Okay. Don't you want to know if the way the person, their habits... Okay, so it's absurd to me. It's as absurd to me as the people who are like, don't want to have sex before marriage, right? That's crazy by today's standard, right? Because you're putting way too much import on the role that sex is going to play in your marriage. It's not going to play that big of a role. It will in the early days when you're pumping out kids and all that. But again, your goal is to be buried side by side and spend the next 80 years of your lives together. Sex is not going to be that important. But still, you should know if you're sexually compatible before. But the whole living together thing, more than 11% of Americans between the ages of 18 and 24 are now currently living together while describing themselves as being in a romantic partnership with their roommates. Let's see here. This is the highest share ever, according to Census Bureau data. That's about 3.2 million people, roughly 650,000 more than before the pandemic. The need to save money served as a tipping point for many young couples. No, you know what? I think, okay, so I do. But people moving in together to save money so that you were in a relationship with somebody so you didn't have to have two apartments. The idea of combining that, losing one rent in the couple. Well, we're a couple anyway. Why don't we just have one rent? That's not new. That is not a post-pandemic kind of idea. That's not something that, well, because of the way things are today, young people are moving in together to split on rent. No, that's always been the case. Always been the case. So stop it with that nonsense. Here's why more people are living together. Because we're just a different society now. And I think most people have evolved to the place where I am, which is, of course you should live together before you take the jump to marriage. Of course you should live together. Hey, and you know what? I'll take it one step further. If you guys just want to have a nice little ceremony in front of your friends and family and commit to one another and bring children into this world and then work out whatever legal ramifications there are about the kids' names and all that kind of stuff, you guys want to do that without ever filing paperwork with the state that declares you are a married couple, go ahead. That's fine too. That's fine too. I don't care. Well, we're not officially married. I don't care. That's great. You guys are committed to each other. You've got a nice little family there. The only thing that I would say is that there are some benefits to being married. So maybe you file the paperwork and maybe you get on her health insurance, stuff like that. But living together, this used to be a disgrace. It used to be, oh my God, how am I going to tell the ladies at book club that my eldest daughter is living together? That was always, it should not be a disgrace. It should be seen as a very prudent move by young people before they commit to marriage. Stop Making Sense is trending. The Talking Heads, Stop Making Sense. Stop Making Sense by the Topping Heads. Oh my God. All right, let's see if we can get this to open. There we are. Talking Heads Stop Making Sense to get a restored and re-release. This is by A24. A24 Entertainment. The 4K restoration of Jonathan Demme's inimitable, it's that word. I've had difficulty with this word and words of this ilk my entire life. I know what the word is. I just can't say the word. Inimitable. The 4K restoration of Jonathan Demme. Oh, Demme. Now look at what I'm doing. The 4K restoration of Jonathan Demme. Oh my God. You guys, you know what this is? Every read I've ever done in a studio for a commercial or something, this is basically what happens. I'm falling into a hole. The 4K professional time, sip of coffee, we're gonna fucking nail it. Ho, ho. Nail the line, be a pro. The 4K restoration of Jonathan Demme's. Fuck it. Anyway, they're remaking the movie. Stop making sense. The concert film, Talking Heads, you know. Here's okay. I've got to be honest here. So like the Talking Heads are, I get it, they're a very important band. My 13-year-old kid loves the Talking Heads. He really does, which I think is cool, which is also upsetting because I also think it means he's cooler than I am because I don't really love the Talking Heads. Like I think the Talking Heads are a little, I wasn't, artsy fartsy weird people liked Talking Heads when I was little. Right? When I was a little kid, like, not that I had a problem with artsy fartsy weird people, but I knew to take their opinions on things with a grain of salt. Now, I think I may have been wrong about Talking Heads because I like every hit song the Talking Heads ever did. I like, you know, I like them all. Can't think of Burning Down the House, right? They're fun. I just don't go deep on Talking Heads, and I've never seen Stop Making Sense, the inimitable 1984 concert film by Jonathan Demme. I did it out of order, but I just did it there. I said Demme and inimitable. Oh, inimitable. That's an easy word to say now. Now that you know to say oh, look at me getting cocky. Anyway, Stop Making Sense. I've never seen it. You know what I did see, though? Documentary Now, which is a series. I think it's on Hulu. Maybe it's on Netflix. I don't know. Documentary Now, Bill Hader and Fred Armisen, they spoof documentaries. They did a whole one that spoofed Stop Making Sense. So it's like Bill Hader. I think it was Fred Armisen who was playing the David Byrne guy. Anyway, very funny. What was it called? I don't know what it's called. Anyway, Documentary Now. Look for the one that looks like a concert film that's parodying Stop Making Sense. What else do we have here? Jim Gordon. All right, so here we go. This is going to be the last one of the prepared things that I have for you today. Jim Gordon has died. Jim Gordon was a guy. This is a man that deserves a little bit of a note. Had a colorful life. Jim Gordon, first and foremost, was a musician. He was 77 years old, and he has died. Jim Gordon was a very highly regarded drummer back in the age of the studio era, when the studio drummer was an important guy. Jim Gordon was one of the Wrecking Crew, if you've ever heard of the Wrecking Crew, which was the band of independent instrumentalists who came together and played on some of the biggest records of all time. You know, whether it's Elvis Presley or whoever, you know, the band backing them on a lot of these albums were a cobbled together group of pro musicians called the Wrecking Crew. Jim Gordon was a member of the Wrecking Crew. Jim Gordon then went to work with Eric Clapton, Derek and the Dominoes. He was the drummer in Derek and the Dominoes. He also famously co-wrote Layla, you got me on my knees. But also, he's a story of tragedy. He's an incredibly talented drummer, a guy who probably could have been so much more if not for the fact that he had schizophrenia. He had, not unlike Syd Barrett with Pink Floyd, Syd Barrett could have accomplished so much more. Syd Barrett was a true genius. And, you know, I'm not saying that Syd Barrett and Jim Gordon were on the same level, but Jim Gordon was a very talented, very well thought of creative musician, singer, songwriter. He could do all those things. Famous for playing drums because Eric Clapton had him as a drummer. Famed and prolific 70s drummer Jim Gordon, who was diagnosed with schizophrenia, and here's the part that I was kind of burying, who was diagnosed with schizophrenia after murdering his mother in 1983, has died at the age of 77. Gordon died at the California Medical Facility in Vacaville after a lifelong struggle with mental illness. Mental illness, man. I mean, some of our greatest geniuses, some of our most interesting people, some of our more curious sorts. There's some mental illness behind what makes them so interesting, what makes them so different. Born in 1945, Gordon was raised in California's San Fernando Valley. His interest in drumming started at a young age, and his parents supported his aspirations, even if they meant not pursuing higher education. Let's see. After starting in the early 60s. So he began touring with the Everly Brothers in the 1960s. Then he linked up with Clapton. Gordon quickly became one of the most in-demand drummers of the time, contributing to George Harrison albums, All Things Must Pass. He played drums for the Beach Boys on the Pet Sounds album, worked with Gordon Lightfoot, Harry Nilsson, Sonny and Cher, Nancy Sinatra, Glenn Campbell, The Byrds, Duane Allman, Jackson Browne, Joan Baez. Gordon also has a history of disturbing and violent behavior in his personal life. The same year he co-wrote Layla, Gordon hit the road with Joe Cocker in his band Mad Dogs and Englishmen. His girlfriend at the time, musician Rita Coolidge, joined him. And in Bill Janovitz's Leon Russell biography, she detailed the moment Gordon assaulted her. All right, so this is Rita Coolidge talking about Jim Gordon assaulting her. Jim said very quietly, so only I could hear, "Can I talk to you for just a minute?" He meant he wanted to talk alone, Coolidge said. So we walked out of the room together. And then he hit me so hard that I was lifted off the floor and slammed against the wall on the other side of the hallway. It came out of nowhere. And then there's a whole bunch more. Anyway, he was a very complicated guy, but a guy who was considered, a genius. He's dead. Jim Gordon. I don't know. People are complicated. He beat up women, but he murdered his mom. But he was a schizophrenic, and everybody knew that he was a schizophrenic. But when you're a schizophrenic and times are good and people are having fun, hey, you can put up with it. When you're a schizophrenic and the party's over, maybe that's when, holy cow. All right, let's jump into Twitter. We like to end each and every high noon show with a little look at what's trending since we signed on here. Let me see. And it almost never rewards us with anything interesting. Almost never. March Madness is trending. Oh, God. NCAA tournament talk. It's everywhere. It was so hard to find. So one of my favorite tools for gathering all the different topics is to use Google Trends and then to set the parameters and filters so that you only get the things that you really want to get into. There was no filtering out the NCAA. The NCAA, I'm serious, of 100 things that were trending, I would say that 80 of them had to do with March Madness or the NCAA tournament. So, that's all people want to talk about. What else do we have here? We got anything good? Anything new happen with the Cowboys? I mean, I know we cut Zeke. That sucks. No, nothing. You know what? We can't even do any trends. We can't. Because it's all NCAA talk. Wait, Don King is trending. Is Don King dead? Is Don King already dead, or am I about to find out that Don King is dead? Did I already know that Don King was dead? Oh my God, the older I get, the more difficult the dead or alive game gets. All right, now I got to find out if Don King's alive or dead. Boy, I'll tell you. Things I have to go through. Is Don King alive or dead?
Here is information from Wikipedia.
That didn't answer my question, Google. He's alive. I guess he's alive. Yeah, he's alive. Born in 1931. He's 91 years old. Okay, there you go. Don King. If we learned nothing today, we learned that Don King is still alive and well. All right, that's going to do it for the High Noon Show. Tonight, don't forget, we've got Pugs and Parker, 9 o'clock. It's the nighttime stream, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. Tonight, we're going to be talking with Jagger Show producer, everything man there at 105.3. He produced for everybody. He board up for everybody. The lovable, and he's already been name-checked a number of times by other people telling stories. Jimmy Ryan will join us tonight for Pugs and Parker. Jimmy Ryan tonight at 9 o'clock as we do more due diligence in our side project. Who Killed? Live 105.3. Talking about old Live 105.3 stories. Tonight at 9 o'clock. All right, that's it.
I've got my
I got the tipping thing up. If you guys can tip, that'd be great. Show is dying. Literally on life support. Drop a little something in Cash App, drop a little something in Venmo. We exist on your tips and your good graces as if I am your bartender or your valet or whatever. That's it for us here. We'll see you at 9 o'clock tonight. Bye, everybody. Have a great day.
Tomorrow is another day, the best is yet to